You see that all the time. These guys, and they're, oh, I'm making $100 million a month, and all that, and the kids don't know any different. It's hard for an adult to figure out what's real
Right.
and what's not, and so then it starts setting these crazy standards that they can never meet, and now they feel like a failure because their little startup business is only doing $1,000 a month. Well, that's a real business.
Yep.
Like, you got to start somewhere and stick with it. And
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been cleared for takeoff. You are now flying high with Travis Lamance.
welcome to Flyin High. I'm your host, Travis. Today I got with me Matt Lee, the founder of Allergic to Average. Thanks for being on, Matt.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Allergic to Average, man. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that is? And
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, we call it a mindset movement. Allergic to Average actually represents and reflects a way of thinking. So, it's a mindset. And so, we've first started that out with clothing. It was a clothing brand, and that's a lot of where people kind of got bought in. But the stronger side and the more important side, I would say, is the last 10 years, we've been working on curriculum to get into schools. So, we've been across elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. And then currently, we work with different colleges, some here within local spaces, some out of state, but it's all about helping to get into right thought, helping people to partner with their power of thought, understanding their brilliance, understanding that what seems ordinary is actually created to be something extraordinary. But a lot of that comes through the way that we produce in thought and the way that we start to kind of partner or sometimes almost make enemies out of our thoughts. So that's kind of what it's evolved into in the movement of getting people to upgrade their thoughts and to think different, not only, more importantly about themselves, but also about the world and what is possible around us.
right, is there something that happened to you in your past that prompted this wanting to go into schools, or did you identify something in the school system that kind of motivated you to push this into the school area?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's really funny because my relationship with academics and just, the K through 12 experience was really brutal for me. I mean, honestly, it was more of the athletics and having sports that
Right.
kept me passing, even if it was a C or a D. And so I never actually imagined I would be going into schools and working with students. I didn't like school.
Right.
I struggled a lot reading and spelling and grammar. Looking at, being dyslexic, like it just was a struggle for me. And so, one thing that I've been told and I've heard over years is, your place of pain a lot of times becomes your place of rain,
Right.
a place where you actually had to learn through that pain. And then, a lot of times you go back in with answers, solutions, or perspectives that change things. So fast forward and going into schools, I never would have went back into the school. I mean, actually, I just had no desire to, didn't think that was important or something I would do, but understanding the need and the demand for our young people to upgrade their limits, upgrade what it seems like their identity from time to time, upgrade their thoughts about what is true, what is actually real and possible. That became evident, and then you got to follow your favor. A lot of times, I started seeing the invitation to go into schools, and it started from the elementary school level, and then eventually there was several years doing that in middle schools, and then again it evolved from high school, and then now college is really that beautiful sweet spot because they're at that place in life where you're forced to think different and upgrade, and really you're on your own. So
Right.
it's done well with that, and you can go a lot deeper within the philosophy of Allergic to Average or within thought with a college age person. So that's really what I enjoy doing now with it.
I notice a lot of people that don't get a hold of something like this, and it takes them into their 30s and 40s to kind of get their own path figured out on their
Right.
thought processes, and figuring out that the way they think about the world and interact with the world actually produces an outcome effect in their life. So seeing you get these kids when they're young and get their mind going in the right direction, I bet you get a lot of benefit out of that, and it's probably pretty fulfilling on a personal level to
Yes.
see those kids, change their thought patterns. And I can only imagine a lot of these kids don't come from the greatest of environments at home, and probably not getting a lot of good direction on that whole thought process, and whether you want to call it manifestation or thought control or whatever that puts the right outlook on their life. So
Right.
I bet you see a lot of that out of those kids.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that keeps it fresh or almost, that passion burning in it, because a lot of it is understanding, I mean, every single one of it, what you know is what you live. And so a lot of these young people that I work with, that's all they know, or they have no sense of hope for a future because
Right.
where they're living and what they see, that's what they're almost in their mind guaranteed to have, or even they're not going to have this in life. And so to go in and create a new window for them to look out, create a new door for them to walk through, and whether that be a belief system or whether that just be a maybe intriguing thought that gets them to think different, position their heart, their mind just a little bit different. It changes and evolves them into something that, without mentioning at times or even talking about, right? Like these, like you said, a lot of people, they don't have these conversations.
Right.
Nobody's kind of bringing them into an enlightening positioning with their thoughts and how important that is, or even how to change those. So doing that and finding, for me, more and more creative ways to express that, to illustrate that, to demonstrate that has always been sometimes frustrating, but really like benefiting in the whole just like journey of it. And so yeah, we're continuing to do it though.
I bet it's hard to not get impatient with them trying to lead them to the water to drink, and constantly like, just change this one thought and your life will be better. And it's you can't force the thought change.
Right.
You just got to keep dropping the breadcrumbs and
or
hoping they latch on.
When like what the issue is, or what your quote unquote problem is. And wanting to, we would love to do things for people, but again, it just starts at a individual, level of doing for you, and then as you do that, people, I think we have so much more value in the example that we are setting for ourselves, or the way that we show up, the way that we respond, versus trying to influence or change somebody else's thoughts about what they should be doing. More is caught than taught. I've always heard that, and it's so true, like from your kids to the community around you, a lot of young kids too. For me, I felt the need to always say the right thing, or, but a lot of it is like, man, at the end of the day, you can't sleep on your motto and example of your life and how you're showing up and how that speaks. And so I'm reminded of that too. And even though I could get, pretty frustrated with kids I've mentored and them not listening to the advice, or, there's grace, because all of us have had seasons and moments where we decided we wanted to learn the hard way or the expensive way.
That's usually the only way I learn.
Yeah, right. So
the hard, painful
you got to
way.
keep grace, when other people decide that's what they want. So
share a little bit more about you and your background and where you came from, and just tell us a little bit more about Matt Lee.
So born and raised in Amarillo. I grew up, my dad's from Vietnam, and my mom, she's from Hereford, Texas. So I have the Vietnamese culture. I have the, the Hispanic culture. And so a lot of it in Amarillo, Texas, not a crazy big city, but it's not a little small town. The school I went to, the home that I grew up in, a lot of this was just kind of an average upbringing. And then even for me, I was more of a less athletic kid. I was chunky. I was, like going through elementary school. My mom has a gift to cook. That's why we have a food truck. And so I had this challenge of, from like 5th grade going into 6th grade, I was a lot shorter, chunky. I wasn't playing sports. I was doing some, but 6th grade was the first time that I was like verbally bullied about my appearance. I started getting acne. I started, and I had this heavy weight, and so I just
painted a real pretty picture.
I was that was the Matt Lee of 6th grade, and so my point in bringing that up, because whether it was the classroom or whether it was figuring out something in life, even joining sports and being on the football team, trying to make A team in 7th grade, I started to tap into the idea of the power of your mind without even realizing it. I knew that if you told yourself, if you pushed yourself, if you didn't give up easily, somehow that would pay off.
Right.
And so I did that with sports and all that, and I did that with even the social aspect with friends in the classroom and stuff like that. So fast forward, a lot of things that made or took me from just this ordinary average Matt Lee, I started to tap into through entrepreneurship, through my relationship with my wife, my high school sweetheart, through business and entrepreneurship, through synergizing with people in the community, to being nominated for awards and all. It was really, the most important thing I should say was really your thought process and your beliefs behind what you're doing. It's not even always so much more important of what you're doing, but really how you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
And so it gave me this opportunity to, in life, like I remember one of my first jobs was in 7th grade. I'd get done with football practice. I'd go across the street to this little cabinet shop and I would sweep the floors,
Nice.
To get all the sawdust up. And I had a little old school time punching card. That's
Yeah.
what they still had there. And at the end of the week, the boss would bring me in, Rodney, he's a super cool guy. He'd calculate my hours, but regardless of how many hours I worked, he'd always say, "That's good for $20. Give me $20." I was making $20 a week, but the excellence of just going in and sweeping better, sweeping faster that day. It was always something to build on, and I watched how that allowed me to. At one point, I leave a college and go start a business. 5-6 years later, that college wants me to come back and do multiple keynotes. I never went to a university, but then I have universities bring me in, and so understanding that it's not even about titles or your credentials, or it's really about how can you help bring and create results.
Right.
That's what everybody wants. They want change, they want results. And so through excellence and through what seems ordinary, the way that you approach it, the way that your mind can position and see a different perspective and showing up and being the best, even if it's just sweeping sawdust off the floors, allows you to be promoted or to find favor or opportunity and make you into something extraordinary. And so that's a lot of kind of what positioned me into this, and really learning how to be a product of Allergic II Average before it ever became a brand or a movement is a lot of my backstory in it.
That's really cool. And did you have mentors in your life that kind of pushed you that way, or were you just fortunate enough to be wired that way and just kind of figure it out on your own?
No, I love that question, because I would say that was probably my biggest, well, I would say the first, but I always felt like biggest like advantage or maybe weapon to have for good was mentorship. And shout out to Dub Alexander, man. That was, I gotta give mad props to Dub, because he was, and as still at this point until today, he was really the first mentor that just championed me, believed in me, saw what could be the potential of, but not only saw that, but also gave that type of support or opportunity to it. It's one thing to say you believe in something, but it's another thing to let your actions support that belief. And Dub had been the first mentor that really started to get me to continue to tap into excellence, get me to continue to upgrade for myself what was possible, what is true, and what could be real for me. And so mentorship, man, I would say that is such an advantage to have in any case. And that was really what got me out of what I knew and what I was living, and how to actually change the story or change the perspective in that was through mentorship.
To this day, I still rely heavily on mentors.
Same.
Constantly, that's
keeps you sane.
Well, it keeps you sane. It's a good way to collapse the timeline on, something that takes you 5 years to learn on your own. You can learn in 3 months with a proper mentor in place. And so, I think that's one of the cool things about Allergic to Average is bringing that opportunity of mentorship to people that may not understand it or know what it even is, or even realize that they're being mentored.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So.
And it's a game changer in that approach, because to give something, I mean, for me, that's the gift of Allergic to Average, the message. Mentorship is a model of that. Somebody that is willing to say, hey, learn from my mistakes, learn from the money that I spent, learn from the time that I wasted, learn from the regrets or stress, whatever it is. And so I think it's just something that I feel like every single one of us, guys or girls, like to have that type of accountability, conversation, sharpening is just, it's essential, bro. And especially in the world that we live in with so many different opinions and voices, you really have to find people and individuals that you can tap in with, and it keeps you like sane, or at least, on the same page as far as like, keep pursuing that or keep doing that. You're not crazy, or you'd be crazy to stop,
Right. Well, and I don't envy the kids now. It was confusing enough being a kid, and it was pre-social media. And now with the social media stuff, all the kids are on, every screen you scroll to, you got some guru that claims they know everything, and you say they get this opinion, 30 seconds later get this opinion, you talk about whiplash and being lost and confused and not knowing on what to listen to or what to follow or what's good advice, what's bad advice. And man, I bet it's a real challenge for kids now. And I've got 11-year-old twins, and watching them trying to figure out what to listen to, and gosh, dude, it's even challenging as a parent to like help them understand why this isn't a good one to follow or this one is a good one, and having a in-person presence with somebody there that you can build a relationship with, I think is probably pretty critical out of that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like the social media side too, I would just say real quick, like for me, I've always had this like frustration with social media because I've always like seen, I would say I've always seen it for what it is, even in the very beginning of Facebook and all. It's just like, it's not real. Like it's there and it's meant to be an extension, but people make it their life, right? People make it like, and so even within, the multiple businesses that I'm involved in Allergic to Average, being a speaker and all, like to get in to be consistent on social media has always been a challenge because I've been in and out of like, I don't want to play the game, but so much of that frustration though of everybody has this opinion or, misleading people or, I would say manipulating. We see so many people getting scammed and taken advantage of, and it's all through people putting out their voice or their opinion in certain ways. And so I thought, man, for me, like if I'm really that frustrated about it, I need to be that change I want to see on social media. I need to be the voice of truth, or as best as I can, show up and give at least another model or example of it. And so that's what I challenged myself with is to, hey, what's going on, but instead of complaining about it, you need to be a part of the solution, to address it. So I see so much of that going on. Like you said, it's very hard to kind of determine what to listen to, or when there's so many voices and channels to tune into, it's like, which one?
Yeah. So. So many conflicting opinions. None of them seem impactful unless you're guided in the right direction and kind of stick to a plan and have the attention span to pay attention to one thought process long enough. But it's, I spend most of my time following and watching business related, entrepreneurial related channels and all that. And you see that all the time. These guys on there, I'm making $100 million a month and all that. And, the kids don't know any different. It's hard for an adult to figure out what's real and what's not. And so then it starts setting these crazy standards that they can never meet. And now they feel like a failure because their little startup business is only doing $1,000 a month. Well, that's a real business. Yep. Like, you got to start somewhere and stick with it. And following all these people on there, they're like, oh, you can make $1 million in a month. And like, dude, it's just such a disservice to the world for these guys to be out there doing that and profiteering from it. And instead of just being on there and being real and giving real advice and putting people in the right direction, it's crazy to watch. But also, if we abandon it and say, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that, then that's all they're left with. So
yeah, and that's what I did for a little while.
Yeah, so that, you got to combat it and do the best we can with it. And I really love your mission and what you're doing with that and trying to help. I know you help other people too, but really with the kids and trying to put them on the right track at an early age is impactful to their whole life. So it's really cool.
I appreciate that.
I know you do a lot of traveling for speaking. You've been traveling quite a lot your whole life. I like hearing travel stories, man. What's some of the funner places you've been, and what are some of your cool stories or takeaways from some of those adventures?
Man, I would the first place I ever went, I had just turned 15. It was my first mission trip, and I had been we actually went to Germany and Poland and Czech Republic, and then the first service trip I went to Jamaica a total of 4 times on some different mission trips, service trips for some of those, and then Honduras was one. I've been to Mexico, and then some stuff in the States. But I think going to Honduras, but also being a part of, we were rebuilding an orphanage there and helping them repair a lot of stuff. And so I think that one for me was crazy because I didn't I'm married to a wife that speaks Spanish, but I don't know Spanish, right? And I'm half Mexican and all these things, but I go to Honduras and I'm working with these kids and I can't talk to them because they're all speaking Spanish. Right. But they see us as, people that are there to help, and we're leading them through stuff throughout the week. But one of the things that really kind of moved me in a sense was just understanding that between what they didn't have and what they had, they were more just grateful and celebrating the little they had. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of that because of us being there to help. And then at the very end, I remember I was closing. We had this last night with the orphanage, and everybody was around this big bonfire, and we were all kind of saying things to the kids. They were translating it to them, and I told the kids, I was like, look, I know I didn't really. I mean, because we played sports, we play soccer, we play but I never got to actually talk to them, have a conversation. So I was just telling them, my time there, this and that, and I made a promise that I I would go back. I'd be back one day.
Mhm.
And I looked around, man, and all the kids were like crying, like I'm the dad of all these kids. Like you would think I'm leaving the war for a little bit,
Right.
and all 30 of my kids want me to come back, but they all took that, in this beautiful way. Like they took that personal, and they received that to say, like, I could tell that they were so grateful for me, to our team, to be there, but also to acknowledge and say, like, I will remember you, and I will come back. I think from that point, man, coming back to the U.S. and just going back into what our culture is, it just shifted so much of what I saw from, a lot of kids at school growing up. It's about the brand you're wearing.
Yeah.
It's about the matching socks with the matching, brand of shoes and the matching hood. Like, and to come back, and then even Jamaica, where they don't even wear shoes, like to come back from these, dude, it completely took this emphasis off of this false reality of what's important or what makes you a person.
Right.
And it really forced you to just see people for who they are, or, others that had nothing, and how much they can show up happy, versus my friends who are showing up with Jordans and, jewelry and all that, but they look sad in class every day, and they live in America. And so I think, just traveling in general, I was so grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to have done that at a young age, because it automatically started to shift my perspective of, what actually matters and what others have, and how happy they can be with the little they have compared to us.
The first world problems that we talk about a lot, right?
Yeah.
But we're sitting on a multi-million-dollar private jet talking about gratitude, and we do a company book club, and we just had our meeting a couple hours ago, and the book we're going through right now is The Gap and the Gain, and talking about how you find happiness by how you measure your life, and whether you're looking forward or looking backward on, are you measuring against this future ideal that you're never going to get to, or that you're still striving to get to, or are you looking at where you started and measuring, how far you've came, and then using the goals and the ideal as kind of your roadmap to get where you're going. And I think a lot of us get lost in the busyness of our world of
For sure.
realizing that and appreciating that. And I think not by any stretch saying that folks in that situation are fortunate to be in that situation, but from the aspect of what you can filter through to make yourself happy as a human, I think becomes a little bit more simplified. You find some happiness in every little thing that happens in life, because it's not the horror show you had the day before, and
Right.
trying to keep up with the Joneses in the U.S. It's the shoes and the gear and the,
You're
all
gonna lose. You're always gonna lose.
you're always going to lose. And our society just hammers that home so much that it's hard to draw that parallel between the two. I think people that get to go and do those kind of things are fortunate to see that polar switch between what happiness truly looks like and what we think we're going to buy to make us happy in the material world, and I think happiness is a mindset, and you either decide you're going to be happy or not in spite of the circumstances that you're in. And
I would say, without getting too deep into that, this cause and effect, we understand this law and this principle, and the cause of us having so much convenience in America and so many different things, and really starts to become distractions. The effect of that is it's now an art and definitely a responsibility. Like even when Scripture says to be still.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for people to be still.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people that I'll talk to that wake up, the first thing they do is they go straight to their phone and they start scrolling, and they tune into the frequency of the chaos or the fear that is dominating our world.
Right.
So to get tuned into the frequency, or I would say the channel of love, which is actually all that is really real, that we are sustained by from family. We understand our highest commitments, our highest memories, and just expressions are all gathered and geared with love.
Mm-hmm.
When we get out of love, though, and we start to move into fear, we are making it impossible to be still. Our minds are not still. Our lives are not still. So we're at this effect of everything seems like it's just. And then you look around and the world supports that. Mm-hmm. That's their motto. That's the dominating thought process of our world is you got to get in, you got to do this, you got to hustle your face, you can't sleep, you got to, because if not, somebody's beating you.
Yeah.
And you'll never win by trying to outdo somebody, so it's just getting, like you're saying, I mean, like you go to these other countries or these other places where they don't have all that. And you almost sometimes like, you almost wonder, like, would we be better if we were like that?
Right. Well, there's a lot of times that you see people that become really successful, the first thing they do is go buy a chunk of land in the middle of nowhere and go by themselves,
Just
and try to
disappear.
find that quietness and that stillness. And
Yep.
just having my phone turned off during this, you're even in racing in your mind, well, what if someone's trying to call me?
Right.
What if someone's trying to it just interrupts your peace all the time.
It does.
And it's just constant bombardment, and it does go against the grain of our culture here so much that I can imagine being a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, trying to have the wherewithal and the self-control to push back against that whole tide of culture that's driving that thinks you got to be connected 24/7 and never have any time to yourself. And yeah, it's it's challenging for sure.
It is. So again, Allergic to Average in that whole conversation, man, it's an attempt to be a service and a value to the people that are trying to figure that out. They're trying to tap into, they have this desire that, they know that maybe life is meant to be more. Maybe they could give something more. Maybe they could be somebody.
Right.
That's what Allergic to Average is here to remind, and also to maybe even at times invite people into, that is for you. This is a part of what was created for you as well, so.
If someone's listening right now to this podcast, they're feeling in this way, bombarded, stuck, trapped, hopeless, what do you have to say to them that might help trigger a thought change with them, or a tool they can use to kind of start going in the right direction?
I think gratitude, we talk about it so much, but gratitude, the reason why I think so many people go back to gratitude, or maybe what they don't talk enough about, is gratitude gets you out of the mindset of what you don't have, or what's not working, or what you need, or whatever that excuse, that fear is. Gratitude would actually put you back into what is true, what is happening, what you have, and what is good in life right now.
Right.
And it gets rid of the resistance, especially the internal resistance of, I can, or I won't, or it's never going to happen. And so gratitude reminds you, like, life is still good, even though you feel this way. Life is still, even up until this point, like if somebody's watching this and they're watching it on a smartphone and they're able to have the time and place to watch, like, life is, even though we could argue about it, your life is still pretty good.
Right.
Your life is still like you've had enough meals, you've had enough water, you've had some shelter to still be here today. And so, yeah, do we want things better? Could things be better? Yeah. But gratitude takes us back and anchors us at least into that, so that we stop denying the truth about what is actually real and true for us. And if we can stop denying that, then it actually invites us into more opportunities of wealth, or opportunity, or insight, or community. And so I've lived that too, like getting rid of the limits of who am I to think this, or the first time I started speaking, bro, I'm just not, I wasn't just a natural gifted speaker. I mean, but to have the ability to go through and try again, and a lot of times it just, you have to go, we get to decide with our free will in the mind. There's two sides of you get that choice. Are you going to stay in the fear of, oh, I can't, this is something everybody is going through. Every great person, every great company had to fight through the fear of, this isn't guaranteed. We don't know. What if we do? And they continue to stay aligned into, this belief system that says, but if we don't try, we'll never know.
Right.
If we don't build it, they're never going to come. If we don't at least attempt, and we'll never know if it would, and so if you don't go through that, you'll never actually know. But out of that, it actually gives you the capacity to be the person, the allergic to average person I feel like we were all created to be. You're not going to get there without going through the struggle, without the obstacles, without sometimes the grind. That's what we talk about in Allergic to Average. But it's the ability to do that and understand, even to the core level of who you are, that no matter what you go through, like, you're going to be able to get through it, and you're going to be able to overcome it, and you're not going to get defeated. It's not going to take you down. And I think that's our fear in this world, is if I step up, if I try that, what if it almost like, what if it takes me down? Like, what if it is enough to end me?
Mm-hmm.
And more times than not, that's not true. Yeah. It's really not true. It actually is the very thing that you needed to get you ready for that next season, that next position, that next company, that next relationship. But if you don't go through it and you run from it, you'll never get to actually, express and find what was available for us. And so that's just, yes, a reminder I think that we always have to go back to.
I think that's the biggest fear I have, is when I get to the end of my life and look back on it and reflect, is what opportunities didn't I take? Not where did I fail, but it's what did I let the fear of stop me from getting there? Is
Yeah.
it either ego issue? What if I'm embarrassed if it don't work? What if I try it and it fails? I think I could live with those failures a lot more than I could live with not having tried those things, and
Definitely.
I know it takes some effort to get to that mindset where you think that way, because I haven't always been that way. I've missed a lot of opportunities in my earlier part of my life because I'm afraid of looking bad. I'm afraid of letting
Yep.
someone down. I'm afraid to try, and finally I just got to the point where I'd rather fail than not try.
Not try, yeah. At least you
Yeah.
have something, though. I mean, you fail, quote unquote. I mean, you at least can walk away with some peace in your mind that we tried this, and there's at least feedback.
Yeah.
If I'm going to try again, I know I'm going to change this, or nah, actually, I don't want to do that. Let's
Yeah.
go to something else.
Yeah, because even if that thing that you were going after fails, it doesn't work, you don't start back from zero. You start back from the
Right.
experience you gained from that. And so no matter how the outcome is, you're going to be ahead of where you started. So
Absolutely.
This episode is brought to you by Haven ASG. Looking to buy your first private aircraft or upgrade your current bird? Travis and the team at Haven Aviation Services Group has you covered. From finding the jet of your dreams to selling your old model, our expert brokerage teams handle every detail, connecting you to the right deal for the right aircraft every time. Visit havenasg.com/Flyin High today for your custom experience to begin. Again, that's havenasg.com/Flyin High, or just click the link in the show notes. Now back to the show.
you touched on a few times in there about the value of human life and the value of a person's life. We're going through a lot in our culture right now where I feel like a lot of people have lost the value of a human life and what that is. And do you see that in the people that you work with, that it's hard to get them to understand the value of a human life? Or is our culture as a whole, do you see where that's not working?
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, there's two emotions, or there's really two thought processes, or two energies that we're always going to be coming from and operating from, thinking from, believing from, living from, responding from, and that's either love or fear.
Right.
And so I think in that, what has happened, and the reality is, I mentioned this earlier, that so much of the dominating frequency or thought process of the world that we live in is in fear. And so what gives us the advantage, or I should say, like, when we look at the allergic to average, what makes you, an average person versus an allergic to average person, I could put that into somebody that's operating and continuing to position themselves in love, or somebody that's allowing themselves to stay comfortable, or just aligned in fear.
Right.
And so the fear response of what you were saying, as far as the value of a human life, or the importance of life in general, or just another stranger, why care about them? We have, especially in our young people, because they've seen it from, the adults in our community or in our culture and our society, that have put that impression out that fear would say you're detached from others, you're separated. It's about you, it's about yours, it's about your kind, it's about, surviving. And as we stay into that fear-based way of thinking, separation and detachment just becomes a byproduct of that, to where, it's easy to just take somebody's life over $5 or over something, a disagreement, not even money. I mean, and as we see that detachment away from the importance or the value of a human existence, I think so much of it comes only through this fear whispering in your head that doesn't matter as much as your life, your finances, your friends, or maybe your ego. It's better for you to take that or take their life. And fear is the only thing that can actually convince you that life in general is not as important as your life, or as the reputation of what people might say about you if you don't harm or take or steal.
Right.
And it's a fear-based way of thinking that allows you to operate out of these illusions. It puts the ill in, and it makes you see things or believe things that are not really true. It's an illusion, but love is the only lens that gets you out of the illusion, out of the average, and allows you to see with clarity. Because love is, we know within the divine, topics of God is love. Like, to have a relationship with the divine is really the only thing I feel like that gives us clarity out of the chaos. Because if you don't have something bigger, something higher, something beyond just what we are all kind of abiding in culture, you're going to be a part of that culture. Right. And so, like, I just throw out so much of for my personal life, but even when I carry into Allergic to Average, and we talk about Romans 12:2, Scripture talks about like don't be conformed to the world. Like
Right.
don't it tells you clearly, don't act like everybody else, don't think like everybody else, because that's already going to be a thing. But be renewed, be transformed, which means there's going to be a process there. And like what you were saying earlier, you go, man, I know there's been times where I thought like this, or it was hard for me to believe this, and it's true. Like it's just like physical muscles, and you go in the gym. I mean,
Right.
you can't go in and expect to lose weight or to build muscle with 1 or 2 reps one time a week. It's a continuation of going through the resistance, going against the grain, and going again and trying again, that actually builds that physical muscle. Now, mentally, to get out of the average way, to get out of the default, and to get into what we call the designed, that takes mental reps. That's how you build that mental musculature of thought. Whenever your default thought takes you back into be the victim, no, forget them, right? As you build your mental musculature, and you go through the reps of saying, nah, I don't want to think like that, or I refuse to think like that, or maybe it's a gratitude shift where you're like, man, oh, that sucks. But then you're like, you know what? Today's still a good day. You put those reps in, it's just like a bench press, a session. It's just like a squat session. You're putting in the reps that helps you to more and more think different, more and more respond different, right? More and more, whenever the world is going crazy, you can actually be somebody that's still and allowing yourself to see more clear. But fear will never let you be that.
Yeah.
It will never let you see that. It'll never let you become that. It's only through love, loving yourself, giving yourself time to be still in the morning, giving yourself time to go to the gym, giving yourself time to, maybe it's journal, maybe it's call the people that actually matter, but you never make time, right? It's these small things that open up the big things that we have in life. And I think, like you said, in our culture, in our society, man, we can't let fear being the dominating thing as truth, because an illusion in its fullest effects is going to be portrayed as truth.
As we're recording this episode, it's the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Yep.
And you spend a lot of time on college campuses and dealing with the college kids and talking about all these fear-based things and all this. And what Charlie was doing, going to these campuses and having a very civil debate back and forth with, he wasn't belittling people for their thoughts. He was challenging their thoughts and was happy to speak his thoughts on it. But I really felt like his approach was a very civil discourse on trying to understand their way of thinking versus his way of thinking. A lot of his videos and the content he put out, you'd see these people would just come up to the microphone just foaming at the mouth, full of hate and vitriol. And I think that all goes back into that fear-based thing where these people are just afraid. And what they're afraid of, I don't know. Does that mean he was right about all of his side? Of course not, but at least it was just kind of a civil discourse back and forth. What, if any, takeaways do you have from kind of your experience dealing with the college campuses and watching what he was trying to do with that? What's your take on that whole thing? I mean, it's pretty fresh for all of us and frustrating for me. I was a very big fan of his, and I just hate to see it happen with anybody. Really blows my mind. There's people out there celebrating the assassination of anybody, no matter who it is. I don't know. It just seems timely that you're here today, right after that happened with what you guys focus on, Allergic to Average.
I think that whenever we have people that speak and we have people that give different perspectives, different opinions, different voices to certain things, we are always going to have a difference, because I mean, we are all so different, so uniquely different as individuals, from upbringings to cultures to cities we grew up in, homes, you name it. The list goes on and on. But I feel like where we, a lot of what we talked about earlier is like when we start to get more obsessed about who's right, versus, understanding this transparency or this value of exchange. I think so much of it comes from and I'm not going to say this is every single person, but so much of it as individuals, but then even as a body, is sometimes not knowing who you are, or even the power of your voice, or the power of what you can do with your actions. Because I feel like if we knew that more as individuals or as collectives and groups and whatever we're standing for, we're not turning to, well, let me just kill you. If I can't take you out, if I can't debate you, if I can't outsmart you, whatever, let me just kill you. Let me just take your life. No, love actually allows you to have a difference of opinion, have a debate, and maybe even still agree to disagree with each other, but have enough at least value and honor to see that at least you are somebody speaking on behalf. At least you are somebody that, you don't agree with the things he says, but at least the man, you can agree that he's been a good father to his kids. I mean, from what we can see or believe,
Right.
that are you telling me that, being a father is not important? Are you telling me that being a husband's not important? Are you telling me that all the work and what he's done, even if you don't agree with what he says, none of that's important? I mean, so we lose that value, and it becomes that much more simple for us to just to take or just to make go away, because we don't want to deal with the internal makes you question, or I don't know how to out debate you. So let me, and like the biggest move in our culture within the streets, gangs, even our schools, is like, it's like this, like you're somebody, or it's this big flex if you can kill somebody.
Right.
And it's like, I don't understand it, you know?
I don't either. I think a little bit of it probably goes into this immediate gratification mentality that we're in right now with a lot of folks, and just instant gratification, where I disagree with you. I don't want to even hear your opinion. So I'm just going to get rid of you and just trash that life for no reason. But it's a head scratcher to me.
And it's the whole fear lane of fear is so much easier to hate people, to kill people. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but
it's easier
to invest in a life, to grow with people, to challenge people, to show up day after day, or maybe it's whatever, like that is a lot harder. That's much more of a man or a woman,
for sure,
in my opinion, to actually not complain about the problems or add to the problems, but to be a part of the change. That's a man right there. That's an actual woman.
Takes far more discipline and fortitude, for
right
sure.
It does. And that being disciplined is one of those highest relationships that we could classify as love. Like if you are disciplined in thought, if you are disciplined within the way that you show up or the way that you interact with people, you bring discipline into that. That's a high form of you showing love, because that's the only reason why we would show up in discipline or show up with, that kind of preparation of, being ready it's out of love. I want to be ready. It's out of love that I want to be positioned to be good for you, and the best. And so, and we don't, man, again, fear is easy, man. It's like it's so much easier to hold the grudge, to say the ugly thing, to flip them off, to cuss them out, to not, like, it's just so much easier. And the real, true, sustainable effect that is all caused by love. That's what we need to get back to. That's the only thing. And so, yes, as a society, but even more so as individuals, so whoever would be listening to this, like, it starts on that individual level of how are you showing up and finding kindness, love, like how are you finding those things for you? Because as you do, it opens up the opportunities for you to do that for others, for that kid down the street, that classmate, that coworker that you really don't get along with sometimes, but as you start to shift into love versus the fear, dude, it gets you to think, see, and show up a lot different in life. And that's really what we're all wanting. Like, we all, at the end of the day, we're a lot more alike than we are different. So if we can get back to the reality that we all want to be loved, I mean, and you're not going to get everybody's love, but if we could demonstrate that to others, we find it coming back. And if we can realize people want to be valued, they want to be seen, they want to be, they want to feel important, just like we do at times, or if not all the time. It makes the world a more understanding place whenever everybody's so separated and detached. It gets us back on a common ground, which is what we need.
And going back to talking about travel, and I've traveled quite a lot and been fortunate to see a lot of countries and a lot of different places. And growing up in small town, you hear the things people say, and you kind of build these preconceived notions about, well, those people from here are this way, or those people are from here are this way. But you actually travel to those places and you figure out, my experience has been that everywhere I've ever been, people want the same core things. They want safety. They want to feed their family. They want to go home and get a hug from their kids at night. Like their core desires are the same everywhere I've been. And then all this other stuff is just noise that people put around it to try to create divisiveness and animosity towards each other. And splitting up into the haves and have-nots. And I don't know if you've seen that in your travels, but it was really enlightening to me when I first started traveling. In my early 20s is when I really started to get out of my bubble and go see the
Nice.
world. And it really opened my eyes to how much stuff that we learned growing up is just not true.
Yep. Yep. And that's, again, like, to know these things and then not to somehow, some way. I mean, a lot of times it's just as simple as just your own kids or your own block, your own neighborhood, your own workplace. To not offer that value to others is a disservice.
Yeah.
To know is not enough, but to give and to demonstrate.
Take action on what you know.
And to spread that is I feel like, to really be at cause. In this world of cause and effect, we see so much of people are living at the effect of somebody else's cause. And it's a lot more times than not, that's in mentally. They're living as a victim to the effect of somebody else did this and that, and so much of that, and what I hope a lot of, this is why it's great to do with college age, and but it's getting people out of realizing that, where you're at. Often I talk about, let's just imagine you, if you're past that age at 18 years old, wherever you're at that spot, often is not completely your fault. It's really not, what you saw, what you were demonstrated, but wherever you're at and moving forward as an adult, I mean, it's your responsibility to begin to see different, to upgrade belief systems that no longer serve you, to upgrade, thought processes that are no longer benefiting you, and to begin to see and try for yourself, what does the new look like? What does the different look like?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if we don't do that, then we see a lot of what's going on in our world
For
today.
sure. Yeah, and kind of shifting the lens from the colleges and the kids over to the business side. In my business, the whole allergic to average mindset and mentality means a lot to me, because to me it's a lot about how we treat our customers, how we treat our coworkers, how we operate within the business, and people that think about it the way that we're talking about, they go above and beyond for the customer, whether it makes financial sense every time or not. They go above and beyond for that coworker. They give them a ride to work. They volunteer their PTO when someone's out sick, or whatever these things are. You get this allergic to average mindset in a business. It's a real differentiator in the business as well, because you can go into pick any business in town. You go to 8 or 9 out of 10 of them, they're not that way.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to get good service at a lot of these places that don't have employees that think that way and believe that way. So I think your message resonates all the way through culture and through business, all the way around.
Yes.
Far beyond the kids that you're directly reaching out to right now. So I think it's a important thing for business leaders and business owners to wrap their mind around as well, is this whole philosophy of how to help be the mentor that those employees need to help bring that mind shift to them if they've never been around it.
Yeah, and that's so much. I mean, like, if I'm speaking to like elementary school, sometimes even middle school, I use this idea that the allergic to average mindset is so much of what we could call an excellence mindset. And like what you're saying, that's why, I mean, across the board, from business to individuals at any age, even to an 80-year-old, there's still an ability for us to continue to level up and grow, because so much of the factor of fear wants you to show up in pretty much every scenario perfect, whether that be a job, relationship, maybe it's just going for a run. Like, we start to get in this illusion because of social media and because we see what looks like so many perfect examples, we're like, if I don't show up like that, then why am I even showing up?
Right.
But excellence allows you to get out of perfection, this perfectionism idea, this illusion that why try, or if I can't be that, or as I'm trying, you're thinking I'm not that. You have this perfect thing. So excellence gets you out of that kind of perfection, and it actually allows you to get into, okay, what do I have? And with what I have, maybe that you feel like I only got 10% confidence of taking this thing on.
Right.
But you show up with what feels like 100% in your 10%, and you give it the best you got, and you show up with, kind of a let's do it, and you walk away from that. That excellence is enough to promote or give you something bigger later, whether it's the next time you show up for that exact same thing, or it's just putting you in another uncomfortable situation where you have to level up, you have to get uncomfortable, and you have to take it on. And so it's like, the more we show up with excellence, the more that bank of confidence for us, which is what we all want, that bank of self-esteem and knowing that you can take things on, you can do hard things. Most people need to go through some hard things to realize you got what it takes.
Yeah.
Excellence is that compass that at least allows you to say, like, okay, I'm going to do my best. We got this. We can push through. And in that same way of showing up, that's that same lane of love that I'm talking about. It gets you out of fear. Excellence puts you in love, and it gets you to think higher, think more, and go above and beyond from just like, well, here's my expectations, here's my description, so let me just do that. And that's average. The excellence mindset, the allergic to average, sees what could be done, what needs to be done. And maybe it might cost me a little bit, but I know that the gift of that, the exchange of them having that, I don't even know, but I know it's a lot worth, it's going to be worth it. It's a lot better off that way. And so this gets us out of that average way of thinking about self, about me, about bare minimum. And it gets us into like, man, what if we had a goal like of outserving each other, outserving the people that, like actually are I'm not saying go out and not try to outserve everybody, but like, my wife and I'll just bring that up. Like, that's something that we've taken on into our marriage, because even with the people you love, especially the people you love, it's a lot of times easiest to fight with them and take out your frustration or use them as a punching bag.
Yeah, they're your comfort zone of doing that.
Right. And so one of the things we try to adopt, and I try to do this with a lot of my, my brothers, my best friends and stuff, is like, I'm not going to let you outserve me. I'm going to outserve you.
Yeah.
And so it's that same thing. You go a little bit above and beyond. Hey, I told this guy I'd help him out and cut his lawn because I know he's out of town. Well, I'm not even going to cut it. Well, I'm going to weed eat it and I'm going to water it.
Right.
And if I'm getting real crazy and he's done something crazy for me, extreme, I might even fertilize it that day, right? Like, what if we became a people that tried to outdo each other by outserving each other?
Right.
Right. And so it's just a whole nother, but excellence, even if we're not there yet, excellence at least puts us and positions us to see how you could love more, how you can give more, even with the little you got.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we leave it to this excuse in our mind of, well, if I had this much money, or when I'm in this position, if I had this kind of car, I would do that. Or if I
always puts it off for another day.
It's never going to
start right now.
Yeah. Instead of starting right now, an allergic to average individual just loses their right to excuse or to blame, and they just start with what they have, right? And they just continue to build on that.
You got any particular, I don't know if you want to call them students or cases or anything like that people you've worked with that just kind of blew your mind on a shift within them after hearing about this mindset and your philosophies on it?
Sometimes I forget how many places I've spoke or how many schools I've been in.
Right.
And actually yesterday we were at a little parade in our neighborhood that they're getting ready, the high school that's in our district and all, they're getting ready for their homecoming game. So we were at this parade yesterday, and there was two different floats of the football players. So there was the varsity and JV. And on both of those floats, I didn't even have the logo on me.
Yeah.
But the first one that went by, the one kid yells, "Matt Lee, allergic to average," and their float was cheering for me when we're supposed to be cheering for them. So I was trying to figure out who he was, and I thought that was super cool. And then the varsity float came through, and one of the kids, I think he was more in the back, but he just yells, "Allergic to average." The whole team starts, yeah. And so I was like, "Let's go varsity, let's get it."
Yeah.
And so I think I've had from
you're impacting
them. Just them noticing me in the crowd on the side of a parade was really cool. And just, it wasn't even about me. Matt Lee, in the sense of my name, doesn't carry that much weight or importance. It's also, it's really been that message of allergic to average and taking that.
For sure.
And so from moments like that, which was fresh and happened last night at this parade, to, going to, networking things and having conversations at a networking happy hour or this personal development meeting that they put on. And a real quick version, I remember one, I had spoken at a conference years before at this growth con in Amarillo, and then I think we fast forward 3 years later, I was at a personal development event. They had speakers come in, and I'm kind of getting checked in at the front, and a young lady says, "Matt Lee, allergic to average." So I turn around, and I'm kind of like, it's that weird, awkward moment where you're like, I know, you know me.
Yeah, why don't I know you?
And I feel like I know you, but I don't. So let's get through this. So I was just like, how are you? And so I'm trying to figure out. So she goes, I know you don't know me. And so she goes, but I heard you at GrowthCon, I think 3 years ago. And she tells me that time I was, a single mom, struggling. I was getting, government help. I was trying to find a lot of different things. Resource that I was involved in, organization, gave me tickets to that conference that you spoke at.
Right.
And she goes, and I remember listening to you speak, and I remember just your talk about, being allergic to average and shifting your beliefs about this. And then she goes, and I carried that. And I knew she wasn't saying that was, her saving grace. That was the one thing that got her to, but she made it clear that she said that was an echoing message through these last few years for her of not settling, not having to, just be comfortable with what is and make that okay. And so we talked about it, and she said, now I'm a realtor. My tax bracket has changed. I'm married now. My kids are happy. And she's, so cool. And she just, I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing, for the message you speak, and how much, even though you don't realize it, it is helping people. And so I was like, I was stoked, shocked, amazed, but also inspired to just, even though sometimes it seems small.
It inspires you to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, like, let's just keep doing that. Because if I had just had one more person that had that kind of reaction, or if it meant that type of way for somebody, I want more people to feel that way.
Sure.
I want to help. So I think that would be one of the immediate ones that I thought of that. And there's been multiple of those students. I was at Toot and Totem 2 days ago in Amarillo, and I was going through the drive-thru, and a student that I used to go and talk to at an alternative school. I mean, these kids were in trouble.
Right.
But I would go in every Wednesday at one time, and I would do groups with them, with some other adults, and we would do, art therapy type stuff, creative writing. And I saw this young man, and I was like, Angel? And he was like, it's me. I'm working. I'm out here. I was like, so it was just cool. And he remembered everything I talked about. I get students that, they're now college age or, young adults. And I'm just like, who are you? Oh, wow. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I remember. I will say this one last one. I had a speech on Tuesday night, and I'm speaking to this cosmetology school. Mm-hmm. And there was one young man in the back, and he goes, I heard you speak in Dallas at that one conference. And I was like, you were there? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I forgot I was there. But just to see that evidence and people point that out, like, I heard you speak in Dallas. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Dallas? Oh, wow. It's just really cool, man. Yeah. And that's what inspires me and reminds me to just keep going. Just keep pushing.
So what's up next for Allergic to Average? Where's it going from here?
Man, I think up in the sky somewhere with you. We're going to be flying high.
Yeah, we're flying high, man.
But yeah, no, the plan is just to continue to, as we're getting into this last quarter of the year, we need to get back into how we were consistently pushing our gear and the options of it. A lot of people are asking. A lot of people are wanting more options of it. So focusing on that. But I would say even before that, the message is still continuing to expand. This next month, we have a meeting set up with Emerald College. Again, getting into more colleges and taking their curriculum into our districts, our high school district here, as well as the colleges around and stuff. That's really our main focus. And me I told you earlier, man, just staying consistent on social media, TikTok, and all these other things, using my face and my voice to continue to be out there and bringing in our young people and just, I mean, even our full-fledged adults, letting them be brought into the Allergic to Average, the message, and allowing them to create a mentality that allows them to create a reality that's different than just the average, because that's what we were created for, and that's what I feel like is meant for each and every one of us.
I love seeing your apparel all over town and your brand all over town, because it's, it never ceases to make me smile when I'm walking through a store and I see the Allergic to Average. It's like such a cool memory trigger. Like you're just going through your mundane day, of this, and you see that, and you're like, your average day. I'm like, I'm better than that. I'm allergic to that shit right there.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a reminder. And I mean, the clothes, that's why the clothes, we do clothes, because, we probably still one day get into pre-workout, supplements, and we also maybe we have a microwave. We make Allergic to Average. We could do whatever with it. Maybe an airplane. It won't be your average plane by any means, but clothing was the start and still our primary as far as what we put our logo on, because it's a reminder. You choose what you wear, and that's a part of expressing who you are.
Right.
We wanted Allergic to Average. If people see the logo on you, one, it says something about you, but then two, it also allows you to almost kind of buy into this, secret society of like, I know what kind of person you are just by you wearing that.
Exactly.
And you know what kind of person I am. And so I've gotten stories about that, strangers meeting just because they're both wearing Allergic to Average.
Yeah.
And then they hit it off and they end up becoming friends because, I mean, they're both Allergic to Average. So it makes sense to be friends.
It's cool too. Like, I'm a huge Andy Frisella fanatic. I've done 75 hard numerous times now, but you go around town, you see that 75 hard logo on someone, like, hey, you're my kind of guy right there. And
mentally,
and all the way down to his supplements in the supermarkets, everyone faces the cans for him and makes all of his shit perfect. And it's such a phenomenal thing that he's done with that brand, and it just creates kind of this subculture, this community where you see them, you automatically know kind of some of the things they buy into, and that you got a lot of things in common with them. And I think you guys are doing that same thing on the Allergic to Average brand, where I see someone wearing that, I'm like, they're at least trying to go the right direction. They're working on that excellence. They're working on their mentality, and they want to do good and be good. And it's just really fun to see. I like it makes me smile every time I see it. It's cool.
Same. I mean, I was getting pictures of, decal shirts. I mean, it's just cool to see that kind of wave of, the logo out there. But more than that, again, beyond the logo, obviously, it's that mindset.
Exactly. It's just a memory trigger for the mindset.
Right.
Is what it is.
Yeah. And to see somebody else that, as you are pushing and as you are continuing to your best.
You're not alone.
To level up. You see somebody else and it's a reminder like, hey, you're not out here alone. So I love that.
So what, old man Matt Lee sitting on the rocking chair, what do you hope people remember about you? What do you hope your impact on the world is?
I hope that my life would speak to different dimensions of excellence, different models of that, different variations of that. But I feel like in the grand scheme of it, it would be, I never let fear keep me stuck. There's not a story where I come back. And I know that there would be smaller stories of certain things, but that I don't become a man to where I'm thinking about all these things I did, and then there's like these 6 things that I never went for, or I stopped, or
right.
It's again that regret. I want to know that when I'm that old man, Matt Lee, what's really bringing me peace is that I showed up the best I could. I did the best that I could. It wasn't again about being perfect. It was about being progressive. It was about trying and not settling for what could be, or this is cool, this is okay.
When do we get the Allergic to Average book?
Yeah, that one.
That's the one I want to read.
I know it. That one has not been published yet, but it'll be in the works for sure. But that one's not out yet. That one's not even produced yet, but we're going to be working on that.
We're going to get it there.
Yeah, for sure.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out, learn more, touch base with your brand? Where do they go?
My social media, so Matt Lee. My last name is just L-E with one E. But Matt Lee 54 on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then Allergic, the number 2 AVG. You could put .com, and there's our website, or just Allergic number 2 AVG is all of our social media from TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So just any of those platforms. I mean, Matt, and then that same @allergic.com. That's my email. So you can, I mean, if you want to email me, Matt @allergic, the number 2 AVG.com. Man, reach out. A lot of times too, I have people within the schools, like high school counselors or something. Maybe they hear something. Hey, I wonder if he would come to my school, or I wonder what it would take. Reach out, email me, message me on any of these platforms. I'd be honored to. So yeah.
Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to cover?
Man, I would like to just remind people, man, it's your mentality that creates your reality. The reality that we see every day and that we're taking on is not the reality that everybody's actually living from, even though we're all on the same page about, hey, we know things are happening, an assassination yesterday. We know, but the reality of what we all live in, it comes so much from the mentality that you are carrying, that you're cultivating. And so if you are finding yourself in a depressing reality, a sad reality, a hopeless reality, my encouragement to you would be that mentality, the heart set, the mindset that you're carrying, there is opportunity for upgrade. There's opportunity for things to be renewed. And as you do that mentality, as you take that on and you change your beliefs, your thoughts, it does upgrade the reality that you're experiencing, you're seeing. So wherever you're at, whoever you are, man, in this pursuit of not just settling and being just another average person, because that is an option. To any of you that are taking that on, that pursuit and that actual challenge of elevating, no, you're not alone, like we're talking about. And even if it's not just through the brand of Allergic to Average, I mean, there's individuals that are out there pushing and doing their best to be a solution, to be a change, and to be a difference maker. And so remember that as you take that on for yourself, whoever you are, wherever you're at, we need you.
Well, Matt, phenomenal. Tons of valuable insight, and
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time to be on. And
Yes,
all of you guys go check out Matt's apparel. We need that stuff on everybody all over the place, so
That's
go out
right.
there and get it. Appreciate it, man.
Yes,
Thanks.
well,
Look
thank
forward
you.
to doing it again.
Yes, likewise.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Buddy.